Okay, and we are live. Okay, great. Okay, well, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and I'm an astrologer, coach, and intuitive. And I'm just hopping on here to talk about this tragedy of the fatal shooting of this film director. I think her name is pronounced Helena Hutchins, on the set of the movie Rust, and Alec Baldwin was the star, and he discharged a prop gun, which was supposed to be loaded with blanks or whatever they use on film. But anyway, it went off, and I mean, details are still coming out, but this director of cinematography woman, this woman was killed, and the film's director was injured. So I'm going to talk about the astrology of this event, as well as Alec Baldwin's astrology and the upcoming eclipse astrology. And I did not have time to prepare my slides like I like to do. So we are just going to wing this. It's my Aries moon doing its thing. I like this tightrope stuff because I'm broadcasting right to YouTube. So I can't make a mistake and stop and start over and that kind of nonsense. Okay. And I'm going out to dinner, so I want to get this done before I go. Okay. So the first thing I like to do with an event is to look at the actual event. And I so appreciate it. I want to thank the New York Times for those reporters for publishing the time of the event. So this accidental shooting on this film set happened yesterday on October 21st at 1:50 p.m. approximately in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So this is the chart of the moment. And the first thing that jumps out at me is it's a Capricorn ascendant. So this describes like how it looks, how it appears, and it's a work set. So Capricorn rules work. Pluto is rising. Pluto is the planet of death and transformation, and it is rising. Whenever you see Pluto rising in a chart, now I'm studying horary, it's like, yeah, Pluto's what's called a malefic. It typically portends difficult things, although not always. I mean, people like Jupiter and Pluto together can bring big wealth and stuff. So not always, but it's power. It's power, it's domination, it's death, it's transformation. There's a lot of signatures. It's the butterfly, you know, from the cocoon to re-emerging. The phoenix is a better example of Pluto. Anyway, it's rising. So it's death at work. And also Saturn is rising. Saturn rules safety. And details that are coming out today. And thank you, one of my clients in the film industry sent me some stuff about, before it was even on the news, about how the crew members had been talking about how they'd walked off the set. Some of them, they were complaining about safety, including gun safety, COVID safety, as well as there were some other things they were disputing with the producers or whoever of the film. So that's very interesting that Saturn's rising, talking about safety, is at the forefront of this. Now, Jupiter plays a big role. I'm already talking too slowly. I'm sorry, but anyway, Jupiter plays a big role in this as well, because we'll see it in Alec Baldwin's chart. So Jupiter typically brings abundance, and you think of it as a cosmic Santa Claus. Typically good things happen with this, but Jupiter is also about going on a long journey to a foreign place. So we will often see in death charts, people's Jupiter's activated, or if you lose someone, Jupiter can be activated. So, or you could be having a Jupiter transit. So it's not always good things. Now, some shadow sides of Jupiter is like arrogance, overinflation of ego, also miscalculations. is something that Jupiter is known for. And Alec Baldwin, and Uranus rules the sign of Aquarius, which Jupiter is in. So Uranus is ruling, Uranus rules unexpected accidents. So, and it's a big unexpected accident that's getting a lot of intensity. Jupiter just makes everything bigger. Some other words, misjudgment is also a word, Jupiter, a Jupiterian word. Yes. Now, one of the key things, there's two key transits about this accident that are key. Well, one, well, it's more than that. It's the midheaven where it meets the world. What we're looking at is Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto. So a death at work, the fact that this is on a world point, 15 degrees of the fixed signs are world points. So 1430, close enough. So the midheaven is on a world point. This is getting a lot of attention. And to me, because it's a fixed sign, this is not over. There's going to be, of course, a big investigation, but I think more and more stuff will come out that has bigger implications about this incident. Yeah, and we see the big thing about this is Mars. Mars rules guns. It's a planet of action, and it is squaring Pluto. So this was the square was almost exact when this happened. A gun death is exactly what this is. So like this is one of the reasons this full moon in Aries was so intense on Wednesday, and so many people really struggling with it. I have a friend who got fired from his job like right at the moment it happened. And yeah, I know someone who's like really struggling with like depression and thinking about, you know, hurting themselves and all of this. So this is a really intense time. So take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones. But this transit, Mars transits build. And so this perfected, it might have perfected today, or it doesn't matter. This is what we're seeing with this incident. And yeah, and another big thing about this, so Mercury stationed from its retrograde to go direct on Monday, the 18th, which was just a couple of days ago at 10 degrees of Libra. So what happens when Mercury retrograde, from our perspective on Earth, it looks like it gets to a point and it was 25 Libra, and then it backs it up to another point, which was 10 degrees of Libra, and then it goes back over that. So between 10 and 25 are the hot degrees of it. So even though Mercury is going direct, it's moving very slowly. We're in what's called the retrograde period. So Mercury retrograde things can still happen until November 2nd and I would give it to the 7th, because when it gets out of the sign of Libra, it will be even better. So yeah, so this is a Mercury retrograde type incident. The wrong bullets were loaded into the gun. A mistake was made. I don't think as of yet there's any indication. This doesn't seem like there's no indication that it was something that was done intentionally. It was someone made a mistake, and people have been complaining about the safety before this. So yeah, and Mercury retrograde is in what's called a quincunx relationship with Uranus in Taurus. Quincunxes are aspects where there's something needs adjustment. There's like something unsteady about the energy that needs a change. And so this speaks to, and Uranus rules unexpected accidents. So yeah, and the moon being right here, the moon rules the people. Yeah, so this as well speaks to the people being concerned on the set at the root. The root of this problem, of this event, was that, you know, because of the lack of safety, the Saturn-Uranus square has been in effect all year. It's wide right now, but they're doing what's called mutually applying to each other. So we're going to see more and more of these kinds of, not this particular type of incident, but things that are Saturn Uranus. And yeah, more and more of these type of things. So the people like they walked off the set because they were concerned about unexpected accidents due to the lack of safety. So everything about this is in the chart, and yeah, it's all here. And let me see. And and one thing to note, this port of fortune is at 7 degrees of Leo, which right when we get to Alec Baldwin's chart. So with Alec Baldwin, we don't know what time he was born, but so we don't know any of the houses or anything. So the key thing about this is that part of fortune, and that's the part of fortune speaks to, it speaks to your destiny, and it can bring good things. But on this day, it was exactly on Alec Baldwin's Uranus, which is at 7 degrees of Leo, which is this first Saturn Uranus square that happened February 14th was at 7 degrees of Aquarius. So it was opposite Saturn was opposite his Uranus, and Uranus was squaring his Uranus from the top of his chart. So he's been activated by that square this year. Yeah. And yeah, so anyway, and this square is attributed to what's going on. We're all activated by this square. I don't know where it is in his chart because I don't know his houses, but some key things to think about his chart is that his sun is in Aries and his moon is in Libra. Now, we don't know the exact degree of his moon because we don't know the time he was born, but it was definitely in Libra for that entire day. And so that full moon was like a flip of this, where the sun was shining on his moon, around his moon, and the moon is in the sign of his sun. So just like the reverse. And he's known as being a very belligerent person. He gets into trouble. And so all of this, reminders of all of his things where he has had this explosion. Mars in Aquarius rules his sun in Aries. So when he gets mad, he gets like this explosive anger at times that has been, even in the public. He's in some ways his own worst enemy because his Mercury, that mouth gets going, and it's right next to the South Node. The South Node is vacuum cleaner. It's I call it the cosmic toilet bowl, but it's like it's the flush out, and it's when it can be the source of difficulties for you, potentially in your life. Not always, but for some people, yes. We know that he has problems controlling what he says, and it is related likely to what happened when we see the South Node. It can be like what we experienced from our parents or our ancestors or whatever. It's not important. He is volatile, is the point I'm making. So when we so just quickly, I'm going to put the shooting outside of Alec Baldwin. So it's like, well, why Alec Baldwin being involved in this? So as I said, where's the the part of fortune of the event is right on his part of fortune. Why isn't it here? Yeah, you see 7 degrees of Leo right there. For whatever reason, it's not showing up. And I don't have time to fix it. But anyway, the part of fortune was right on his Uranus, which Uranus rules accidents, unexpected accidents. What's really interesting is the sun is on his Jupiter to the exact degree. It's also right near his north node. That's about 3 degrees off, which means it's opposite his Mercury. Mercury is like what we're talking about with Mercury retrograde and his south node. That's interesting. But the sun shining over on his Jupiter speaks to that miscalculation and whatnot of the shooting. And Jupiter in the sky is on his Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healers. Chiron is in Aquarius. This event is in his chart. He has Chiron next to Venus, which can speak to, he probably has had, well, we know he's divorced from Kim Basinger. That can speak to difficulties in relationships, or a lot of other things it can speak to, but we know that that's something that he's had. And yeah, it's this conjunction between Chiron and Venus speaks to the wounding of this woman. This speaks to in an accident in Aquarius. This totally speaks to it. And Jupiter here is magnifying the event. It's getting world attention. Yeah. Yeah, and Venus in Sagittarius is right on his vertex. Venus is to encounter. And this film director, Helena, she had a quote about how she's a restless dreamer. And that is so Venus. She's a woman who's Sagittarius is fire. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter can also, we've kind of given more of the dream stuff to Neptune, but Jupiter does rule our aspirations. And in that fire sign, there's a bit of restlessness. So yeah, this totally speaks to him encountering this woman, there being this accidental killing of a woman that is magnified by Jupiter. The sun is shining on the event, magnifying this miscalculation, this misjudgment. And yeah, I'm sure there would be even more if we could see his chart. But one of the things that most jumped out at me is the fact that his Venus is at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and we're in eclipse season. I am saying that this event has to do with the next eclipse, because it is going to be on November 19th, and we can see eclipses come in up to 6 weeks or more before. We can see events relating to the eclipses, which are full moons. A lunar eclipse, which I'm going to talk about, is a full moon times 10. Solar eclipses are new moons times 10. Or 10,000. And, they don't affect everyone the same, but if there's an eclipse that is like triggering some of your key points or planets, or in your first, 4th, 7th, or 10th house, these are times that, these are the times of the big beginnings and the big endings in our lives are eclipses. They unexpectedly, like, things sweep in, they accelerate things. Yes, it's, yeah, that's what happens with an eclipse. So anyway, here is the chart of Alec Baldwin on the inside, the eclipse on the outside. So why that 27 degrees of Aquarius jumped out at me is because Aquarius is a fixed sign, and the eclipses are happening in fixed signs. This next one, the sun is in Scorpio at 27, and the moon is in Taurus at 27, forming a T-square to the Venus in Alec Baldwin's chart. So here we go. A T-square is when you have a focal planet squaring two other planets that oppose each other. This is to the degree. Okay. Boy, I like to talk. Whew. So this, I thought this was going to take me 10 minutes and I'm still talking. Okay, anyway, so this is the Venus in Aquarius is squaring the moon, and it's also squaring the sun. So Venus is the focal planet, and the sun and the moon are opposing each other. They're opposing each other. And part of the reason it's called a T-square is because there is a release point. So this squares and oppositions are tense and pressurizing. So when you pressurize something, it's nice that there's a way to release it. So it releases in 27 degrees of Leo. And in Alec Baldwin's chart, that is 3 degrees away from his Pluto, death. Even though it's in his Pluto's in Virgo, but like a death on a movie set. Leo was involved in actors. The death of someone involved in the film industry is totally shown in his chart in relationship to the eclipse. And the other thing about this eclipse, and I've been having my eye on this because I think it's going to be potentially particularly difficult, and we're going to see a lot of stuff about women, maybe, and powerful women. This woman was a director of cinematography, so really doing really well in the film industry. This is such a tragedy. I mean, she was married with a little kid. She was very well liked. I mean, she's just a person. It's a tragedy. But yeah, she was young. She was only 42 years old. She was probably in her Uranus opposition. I don't know what date she was born. I couldn't find it. She could be in her Uranus opposition, her Saturn opposition. Yeah. And then the moon is on the fixed star Algol. Algol is one of the most feared fixed stars in the sky. It is in the constellation of Perseus, and he's holding Medusa's head in the Greek mythology of it. But if you look across this is one of the things that's so fascinating about fixed stars. Different cultures will give the same meanings to the same stars from thousands of years ago. And Algol, like the Arab culture called it head of the demon. And yeah, it's in every single, multiple cultures, it has a negative connotation. It's the most fixed star in the sky. It also, not the most fixed star in the sky, the most feared fixed star in the sky. And it is at 26 degrees of Taurus, right next to the moon at this eclipse. So it is going to get this tremendous burst of energy, which we're already feeling right now. Yeah, and Algol can also be like female intensity, female passion. It speaks about what men fear about female power, female sexuality, things like that. So I think really powerful women will be in the news, powerful women who men fear. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. And we really see Algol in mundane events, mundane meaning the astrology of world events being being active, and when unpleasant world events happen. Algol was on the ascendant, I believe, on the day of the Taliban peace agreement, which was signed by the U.S. former President Trump with the Taliban, at the corresponding full moon of the lunar gestational cycle 18 months later. Yeah, Afghanistan had fallen after 11 days. So right around that time. So yeah, Algol is very feared. And now we're seeing, the persecution of women in Afghanistan again. So anyway, that is that. So let me see if there's anything else I want to say about his chart. I don't want to get too complicated, but this Mars at 13 Scorpio is interesting. Oh, because it's opposite Uranus. Look at that. Mars in Scorpio, death by a gunshot, by accident. Right here. And is there anything else I want to say about this? No. Venus trine Uranus, a woman at work. You can kind of see it in here too. Okay, so yeah, I hope this was helpful. And I think that was all I had to say about this whole thing, except, I just wanted to explain the astrology of this tragedy, and that I think it will it'll have legs more than just this horrible death of this woman. People will likely be held accountable for this safety stuff, and I think it'll impact other film sets where they're not taking care of the crew, and people have had it. This Saturn versus Uranus with, people have had it. They're not taking it anymore, where the authority is telling you just have to just work and do whatever you got to do, regardless of your safety, regardless of your pay, regardless of this. And people are rebelling. Uranus. And my dinner date is here, so I have got to go. So I hope you